The real story now to Capitol Hill, where lawmakers on both sides of the aisle blasting the president's sudden move to normalize ties with Cuba. But there's little they can do to actually stop it. Congress can, however, refuse to lift the trade embargo, and that's an item the president said he would work on, but one that he cannot greenlight on his own. He did, however, sign off on restoring diplomatic relations and easing travel restrictions to Cuba for family visits. But the ban on tourist travel remains. Judge Alex Ferrer is the host of TV's Judge Alex. He's also a former police officer and Florida Circuit Court judge. He was born in Cuba, and his family escaped Fidel Castro's communist regime when he was just 1 year old, and he joins me now live. Judge, it's great to have you on the show. Your general reaction is what?
Well, I wouldn't be as opposed. I'm opposed to obviously what he did, but I wouldn't be opposed if it actually got us some benefit for the Cuban people. If there had been some democratic reforms, something that changes their life in a meaningful way, but really there isn't. All there is a expectation and hope that the Castros will change because we're changing, and that really is not a regime that you would trust if you had any sense at all. They've proven themselves not to be trustworthy in every respect. So, had it been, we're going to open up travel, we're going to loosen the restrictions, and in exchange, there's going to be more freedom of the press. There's going to be more ability to demonstrate and to have freedom of speech in Cuba. I would think that would be a remarkable trade-off.
Right, exactly.
But we got nothing. We just got nothing.
And that's what we're hearing from so many people in the last 24 hours. You would know firsthand, since your family actually fled to get away from just that. I want to ask you about the trade embargo, because some Republicans are actually in favor of revoking that. Some Democrats. Where do you fall on that?
I would be in favor of it under the circumstances that I mentioned. Right now, Cuba is as vulnerable as they have ever been. They were always propped up by Russia. When Russia started failing, they got propped up by Venezuela. Venezuela's failing. There's nobody else to prop them up. I mean, I suppose they could ask China. But now would be a perfect time to get the concessions, to get the additional freedoms, to really put their back against the wall, and instead just lifting the embargo is all that happens now with the lifting of the travel ban and the move to loosen the embargo is dollars go to Cuba. Dollars that go to Cuba don't go to the people in Cuba. They go to the government, who uses it to build their military and to build their state police and make it stronger. And those are their tools of oppression. That's what they use to keep everybody down. And Marco Rubio said it very well yesterday when he said next week the ladies in white will still be getting beaten in the street, arrested, spit on. Nothing changed, and that's unfortunate.
Well, some people are saying that a lot of this was a political decision. Imagine that. So the president's re-election win in 2012 in your state of Florida was in part from garnering support from a sizable number of Cuban voters who had traditionally been Republicans. So, in your mind, how will this play out in your home state of Florida in 2016?
It's going to be interesting to see. The Cuban population, just like the African-American population and everybody else, does not vote like a monolithic bloc. They have independent thought. And the older Cubans tend to be more in favor of keeping the embargo in place and are the ones who are most outraged about this. The younger Cubans tend to be more in favor of lifting the embargo. It's going to really depend on who turns out and why. I would think the angered older Cubans are more likely to turn out and vote because of their feelings about this. And remember that back when the Elian Gonzalez event occurred, there was a lot of outrage among the Cuban community. A lot of Cubans who were Democrats and became Republicans were reverting back to Democrat. And there was a lot of outrage, and I think that cost Al Gore the election, because you remember he lost Florida by about 300 votes. I guarantee you in the entire state of Florida, there were more than 300 Cubans who either didn't turn out to vote for him or voted against him, the Democratic Party, because of that.
So, well, very interesting to see what happens in 2016. Judge Alex, thank you for your time.